No problem. We're
Okay.
flexible, which is one of the themes of today's
Yes.
presentation.
Good afternoon and welcome to Conversations Around the Crown. I am Aisha Douglas, President of the Greater Cleveland chapter of Top Ladies of Distinction Incorporated. Today I am talking with Judy Jackson Winston Esquire. Judy Jackson Winston is a mother, author, magistrate judge for the Cuyahoga County Domestic Relations Court, and former client rights officer at the Cuyahoga County Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board. Her 2017 book, The Anniversary, tackles such mental health issues as schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Judy is also a member of Top Ladies of Distinction Greater Cleveland chapter and Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Welcome, Lady Judy.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you. I wanted to talk to you today about the long-term mental health impact of this pandemic. Most of us have been in some type of remote education or work since March, and I wanted to know, what should we be doing to take care of our mental health?
I think that this pandemic has made many of us feel anxious, lonely, isolated. So, some of the things I think that people should do is have a routine. The first thing to do is to make a routine and to stick to it. Like every day, no matter what, during the weekday, I get up and I get dressed. I put my face on, do my hair, and that's part of my routine. Another thing that I think that we need to do is to connect with our family, our friends, our schoolmates, employees, and fellow employees. I think that's another way that we can really deal with our mental health during this time. So many of us are feeling isolated. So if you're used to having lunch with your coworkers, one thing you can do is have Zoom. Eat lunch on Zoom with your coworkers. If you're in school and you're used to having hanging out with your friends during lunchtime, schedule that. Even though it's not the same as being in the same, presence with someone, it's still a way to connect. Um, if you're in school, another thing you can do is some virtual study, some virtually study together as a way to be connected. I think we should also be connecting with our older family members and friends. One thing that I really am a proponent of is writing letters. I think that a lot of older people, they really like to get letters, and that's a good way to connect. People look forward to receiving something in the mail. I mean, even though our mails are not working so well right now, I got to also put that in here. You know, make cards for your elders. That's another way to be connected. I also think that one of the things that we should be doing for our mental health is go outside and like get some fresh air. We need to exercise a little bit, move around, but just going out, breathing the fresh air is a good way to clear your head and a good way, to work on making your mental health better. And, I think that we should be doing some mental health check ins and like do some things like, meditation, journaling, use some mindfulness techniques. But my most important piece of advice is that no matter whatever happens, remember to breathe. Regulate your breathing. That book, Waiting to Exhale, that's what it means. Breathe. So that's another thing that I think we should do. And I think that one other thing that we really could do to help us with our mental health is to limit the amount of time that we're watching the news and reading the news. Like we're being overly consumed with negativity. We do need to know what's going on in the world. I'm not saying don't do that. But what I'm saying is schedule some time to see the news. Like I do watch a lot of news, I'm not going to lie. But part of it is my profession. So when I'm in court, I need to know what's going on when I'm talking to all the different lawyers and stuff like that. But I do try to not watch news all day long. I have certain times that I get my news, and then that's it. And I turn it off. So those are some tips. I'm hopeful to be helpful. They've been helping a lot of people. I've been trying to use them.
I will schedule some outdoor time. But what if our relationships are failing? How do we navigate that, especially if we can't remove ourselves from that particular situation?
I think that we really do need to talk about this question because I think it's a very serious question. We have a lot of domestic violence that's been happening during this pandemic. So I think that, if you're having domestic abuse, if it's already a problem in your relationship, it's being exasperated because of the pandemic. Um, Also, there's an increase in stressors that we're all dealing with. Everybody's trying to work, virtually. We're feeling crowded on top of one another if we, have children in our household you know, and we're frustrated because even though we're spending time with each other, we want to get away from each other. That's something we really want to do. But there is nowhere you can go. Okay. So that's been very difficult for us. And also, on top of, we have these people right there in our presence. They're people we want to be around, people we want to see, family members we want to see, people we want to go and visit, and we can't. So, it's and then I guess the financial stresses too. People are losing their jobs. And as a result, you see people doing some things that can actually cause harm to our relationships, like overindulging in alcohol. So, alcohol, they found a correlation between alcohol use and violence.
Mm.
And we do need to understand that, if you're, somebody already dealing with that, somebody who's drinking a lot can really contribute. So if you're living with someone who is abusive and you're starting to see signs, warning signs that this can be a really bad situation, I think that what's important is to make a plan. You need to have a plan. Some of the things you need to do that are to look for, as warning signs is if your intimate partner is being verbally or emotionally hurtful to you, if they're threatening you, if they're having episodes of explosive anger, if they're harming animals. Some people get mad and they'll beat the dog. What do they
Oh,
say? It's transference. Husband comes home, he yells at the wife, she slaps the kid kicks the dog. I mean, you got to be really careful because you do see that people are just stressed out. You have to take the steps to try to keep yourself safe and the people around you safe. So some of the things that you can do is find a place in your home that you can retreat to safely, but avoid the bathroom and the kitchen because those are common areas. So, I got like this really big bathroom that's like a room, but it's only me and my husband. So we have more than one bathroom, but you still should try to avoid those areas, but try to find a place that you can go to that you can feel safe. Um, Enlist the support of a family member or a friend. If you are feeling unsafe, make sure that you come up with a code word that you can use with that family member or friend that indicates that you need help. So you got to think ahead when you're dealing, with these kind of things. Another thing that you should do is memorize numbers of people and agencies that you might have to call in case of an emergency. Make sure you have access to cash, to your social security numbers, driver's license, marriage and birth certificates, credit cards. Um, get your safety deposit box keys, bank information, health insurance information, and any documentation that you might need that would indicate, like if you already have somebody who has committed abuse against you, you might need the pictures. You might need the hospital reports. Know the number to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. The number is 1-800-799-SAFE. which is 7233. But if you can just remember 799 safe, that's a number that you can memorize. But, just speaking very candidly, me and you, Lady Aisha, we both know people because from our, groups that we've been involved in who've lost their lives because of domestic violence. So this is something that, I really want to make sure that if you're dealing with that during a pandemic, that you plan for that so that you make sure you're safe and that you don't get hurt. And it is harder because it is very few places to go, but sometimes you have to leave. If you are, it's either going to be you, staying with somebody who's going to really hurt you or possibly take your life. So I hope I answered the question.
What about now that we have a vaccine coming? Shouldn't that do something to bolster our mental health?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to speak very plainly, which I often do. Everybody loves that about me. I'm a very, very direct shooter. I believe that, there are many people who are brown and black who have a mistrust of the health system. And I'm going to be very honest and say they also have a mistrust of the government right now with everything that's going on. I think that what we need to do is understand that, we have a reason to be mistrustful of healthcare communities and the mental health community. There have been a lot of tragedies and travesties that have occurred to our community. Everybody knows the Henrietta Lack story. People know about the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. We're afraid. And I'm not going to say that we shouldn't feel that way. We have a right to feel afraid. And I think that what we should do is acknowledge that. And I think healthcare providers need to acknowledge that how we feel, we have a good reason for feeling the way we do. So what we should do though is we need to just acknowledge that our attitude is healthy. We should continue to be cautious, but we are going to come a point that you're going to have to weigh the benefits versus the risks. So when people do start getting the vaccination, what I think all of us want to do is take a wait and see attitude. Like, did they turn into a monster? After maybe a year, they didn't grow a third head. Maybe I can go ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that that's wrong for us to be a little bit cautious, but we also do acknowledge that we do get vaccinations for a lot of diseases. We do it right now. Most people get a mumps and a measles and a chickenpox vaccination, a polio vaccination, tuberculosis vaccination. It's like about 36 vaccinations that newborns get when they're born. But one thing that I think we feel comfortable with those things because those things have been vetted. They got years and years and years of research. I don't think that it's wrong for us to feel cautious because it was created very quickly. But it doesn't mean it doesn't work though. It just means that what we're going to do is take our time a little bit, and get to see what happens. And if it's working and if it's something that there's no adverse effects, then I think that all of us will probably need to take it at some point. But, we're going to wait and see though. I don't think having a wait and see attitude is wrong. I'm not going to tell people to go do something I wouldn't do yet. I'm just going, I'm not saying I won't do it. I'm not saying I won't do it. I'm just saying that over time, once I see that there's no adverse effects, I'll feel more comfortable with that choice.
That makes sense. Well, we talked about 1-800-799-SAFE. What other resources are available to protect our mental health? And what if we don't have insurance?
Well, a lot of us do work. And so if you work, you probably do have health insurance as one of your benefits from your employer. So if that is the case and you are working and you do have health benefits, what you want to do is get in touch with your provider, your health provider, and you want to get information about what your coverage is. If you're somebody, some people have behavioral health separately outside of, their health care, their physical health care. So some people can get like 12 visits a year, You need to find out what your benefit is. If once you do that, then you can schedule better. Once you know what your benefit is. If you can also, if you work, many people have employee assistance program, EAP. If you're having an issue, you can contact your EAP program. They often have, just separately outside of what we just talked about with your health benefit, often with your EAP benefit, there's behavioral health attached to that, where you can have so many visits a year. And if you don't have that as attached to your EAP, oftentimes they know what the referrals and resources are for you to get very low cost services or free services. So, if you have EAP, a lot of us don't use that the way we should. It's there for a reason. And it's actually a very good program. You call them, you tell them what you want, and then they do all the research for you. So they call you back and say, hey, we found this for you, that for you. And then you can work. And that's why they came up with the program so that you can still work and not have to take time to go do that. That's part of your benefit package. So if you have it, you should explore that more. If you don't have insurance and you live in Cuyahoga County, you can contact the Adams Board of Cuyahoga County, and their number is 241-3400, and you can ask for a referral. If you live outside of Cuyahoga County, you can get in touch with SAMHSA, which is our national federal arm. They are the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. They have a national helpline. Their number is 1-800-662-4357, which is basically 662 help. That's, and they have free 24-hour, 365-day a year assistance. And you can call them and they'll make sure you get what you need. If you're having, some issues and you want to talk to somebody, you can also use the crisis text line. A lot of young people, they really like that. I see Aisha's like, wow, Jenny coming up with some good stuff here. The crisis text line. And the way that you do that is you text the word home to 741-741. And then they'll connect you to a crisis counselor. And everything is free. And you can talk with them, you can text with them, you can tell them as much as you want to tell them. And it's not all mental health. If you are in a crisis, any crisis, you can use this line. And they will try to give you referrals and assistance. And lastly, if you are an essential worker, and what we need to remember is essential workers is kind of a large definition. It's not just nurses, it's not just doctors. But if you are an essential worker, the Therapy Aid Coalition, they're offering free and very low cost short-term therapy. And you can contact them at www.therapyaid.org. And they will connect you, and it won't probably cost you very much if it costs you anything. So those are like a whole lot of different resources available. I want to remind people, and I'm gonna date me and Lady Aisha.
Uh-oh. How are you dating us?
Because when we were young people, because I'm hoping a lot of young people will watch the program as well. So I want to speak to the young people right now. When Lady Aisha and myself were young people, we didn't have the resources that the young people have now. So let's just use an example. I want to get a book. What did I do? I went to the library. I went and I pulled out the little index card, and get the periodic number. We had whole classes on this, people, on how to find a book in the library. Okay.
The Dewey Decimal System, absolutely.
And that's what we had to do. And then we had to go pull the book and hope the information that we wanted was in the book. The difference of today's time is you can just Google. Everybody got a phone pretty much. Almost everybody is connected somehow. You can just put in some words and it gives you thousands and thousands of resources. That was not Lady Aisha's experience, and it wasn't mine. So I want people to take advantage of that. There are a lot of free things out here. There are a lot of different support groups that are virtual support groups that are free. You can contact the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. NAMI, they have all kind of different free groups. So there is, help for you if you need it. So
Absolutely. Well, I have one more question. And this is about the stigma surrounding mental health. There's a real fear of those negative labels and the way we're perceived if we have challenges. So, how do we overcome that and get the help that we need?
basically, I have a really short answer. Is to do exactly what we're doing now.
Mm.
We're having a conversation around the crown, girl. Conversation is the way that we eradicate stigma. You know, um, Valeria Harper, who was the uh, former CEO of the Adamsport, she passed away. She was Lady Aisha and my sorority sister. I worked with her for almost 20 years. She told me that our purpose should be to never, ever, ever let mental health not be on people's lips.
Mm.
We need to talk about it. So many people are dealing with this. This is, you know what, I wanted to make sure I said a little quote that I just made up. It's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's a sign of weakness not to ask for help. Okay. So, what we need to do is this is nothing to be ashamed of. All of us should be feeling a certain type of way. I'm honest. I'm a mental health professional and I'm feeling a certain type of way. This is hard. It is hard. But you know what? We're going to make it through. And if we need help, we're going to go and get the help that we need. We're going to seek it out. We don't, I just want to also say the stigma that many of our people who are brown and black feel is born out of our mistrust for the mental health community because of what's happened in our past. So, again, I think that the way that we get past that is to acknowledge it. The way that people felt, they had reason to feel that way. There were times when the mental health community felt our community. And when I say our community, I mean people who are brown and black. And what they would do is view our community through their lenses and judge us based on that. But what we need to do is to remember that stigma leads to stereotyping, that leads to prejudice, that leads to discrimination. So I want everybody who's listening to this to be a stigma buster. You stop that stigma. Keep talking about mental health. Understand that your mental health is just as important as your physical health. When I was young, my mother used to always say this. My people from the South, they got a saying for everything. So she would always say to me, you know, Judy, your mind is your best friend. Don't ever lose your best friend. What is she talking about? Okay. And I got older and I understood what she meant. You need to treat your mental health and your mind like your best friend because that's exactly what it is. Be nice to yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. We all fall down, but you know what we do? We get up.
That's
As
true.
long as we have support and we have people around us to help pull us up when we feel like we can't get up. So that's my spiel about trying to get rid of stigma. And I hope that my message is, getting across.
It is. And thank you very much for that, Lady Judy. Right now, I do want to bring in Teen Adrienne Johnson. She is the president of Greater Cleveland Chapter Top Teens of America. She has some questions for you from the youth perspective. But first, I want you all to know Teen Adrienne is not just the president of TTA here in Greater Cleveland. She's also a member of Erie Shore's Jack and Jill. She's a scholar at Shaker Heights High School, and I see amazing things in her future. Teen
Me
Adrienne,
too.
take it away.
Thank you so much for that, President Aisha. I have a few questions about the pandemic and how it might have positively and negatively affected teens' mental health. and how teams can be adjusting to the pandemic as it continues and how it will be ending. My first question is for the more introverted teens that the pandemic has positively affected, such as in school, or they're happier because they're not around as many people now. What can they do to make it easier and continue to be as happy when the world starts to open back up?
Well, what I'm going to say for teens is that, it's just like when you are like lifting weights so you can make your muscle strong. Socialization is a muscle, it's an important muscle. But the problem is people aren't able to socialize during this time. So, what we want to do is figure out why the person is introverted and not judge the person. So, some people just they get good energy and they derive great energy for being alone or being with a smaller group of people. And that is okay. But when you have people who are introverted because they're dealing with social anxiety, that's something else. Or if they're introverted because they are driven by fear or worry, that can be a precursor to mental health issues. So, what we want to do is deal with that. If you do have an anxiety disorder, getting the appropriate treatment would, put that teen in a situation where they really can soar. Like they might be flying, but if they get the appropriate intervention, they could be soaring. And that's what we want to see you soar. Um, you have to find a way to continue your learning routine. And if you just really just an introvert, but just because you just get good energy from being with smaller groups or being alone, when school opens up, one of the things that you could do is to see if it's possible to continue to do virtual learning. I mean, they have all kind of ways that young people can do school. There has to be, of course, with your parents' permission and everybody working together. But we want you to get the best experience for you. But like my daughter, I'm going to use my daughter as an example. When she was younger, she would say, "Oh, I'm shy. I don't like people. I'm introverted," all these different things. But as she got older, she realized she actually was suffering with social anxiety. She has anxiety issues and that she has the right intervention. And, when she was younger, I made her do things that were social. Like I made her be in the cotillion. I made her work. But one of the reasons why I did those things, and now she understands that. My daughter wants to be a doctor. You cannot be a doctor who doesn't know how to be social. You can't do it. People deserve the best care. So you are going to be part of a team, and you have to learn how to work with people when you're part of a team. So now she understands that. But when she was younger, she was a little angry with me. Guess that's what happens. So I hope I answered your question.
You did. So, my next question is, how can us as teens set up our minds more realistically for the outcomes of the future? Because most schools probably won't be opening up this year, or some of our hobbies and traditional high school experiences will be taken away and have been taken away.
I'm just gonna be honest because I'm thinking that my audience that I'm talking to for this are teenagers. So I just want you to understand that the one thing you're gonna have to learn is flexibility. Okay, because what this is like the first lesson that teenagers learn. And that is that your parents, your teachers, the adults in your life, they may not have control over certain things. We just don't have control. We can't plan stuff when we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone next week or next month, because of just the where we are, and it is what it is. But we don't want your high school experience to be taken away, but circumstances may take it away. So what you have to do is, I think, if you're not going to be able to maybe have your traditional high school experience, then you have to come up with some new experiences. We got to find another way so that you can get some of those milestones. Like maybe we could, I'm just off the top of my head thinking of things like you could do like, a Zoom party. Because usually in high school, you go to parties. Maybe we can have a Zoom party with a Zoom DJ and a Zoom, we can do a Soul Train line. That's what old people do. I don't know what you all do. That's what me and Aisha would do. You probably do something else. But it's just a point for us to be together. And we got to understand that there's some things we might not be able to control. So you have to be flexible.
I'm gonna combine these two questions that I
Okay.
have. So
I'm gonna
what
try
are
to
some
answer them combined.
so what are some good coping skills that we as teens should be doing during this time with people to express our feelings or without people?
Some things that I have, I think are good suggestions, is I think that you should journal or keep a diary. That's a good way to express your feelings without maybe even having to show it to anybody unless you choose to. I think writing poetry is wonderful. When I was a young person, I used to love to write poetry. It's a good way to express yourself. It helps you actually get better in English. So it's something good that you can do for yourself, but it also has some good, derivatives that come from it. And again, I'm a really big letter writer. I think that is something that's really good to do. You can let your family members and friends know how you're feeling and check in with them by writing letters to them. Your grandmothers, because you showed me your picture of your grandmothers, they would love to get a letter from you. You would make their day. Now we got to get the post people to work. We got to work on that, getting that to work. And also another thing is see if we can find some Zoom support groups, with people your age that you can talk to and share your feelings. So I hope those are good suggestions that, you can try.
Very well. And so for my last question, since some people are doing better with school, some people have found new hobbies, and other people are struggling to find new hobbies, what are some ways that us as teens can continue to either do these hobbies or find a way to find some new hobbies to do since we're more isolated?
So remember what I just told you, girl. The best thing you got going for you is the internet. I didn't have an internet. I just had to figure it out. Me and Lady Aisha talk to each other, be like, girl, you try this? No, try that. We have a whole list of things that can really meet your needs. One of the things that I love to do, and I love to do it when I was young, is play chess. Learn how to play chess. Chess is a thinking person's game. It helps you develop your thinking abilities. It helps you with your memory skills. Also, I think exercise is important. Learn a martial art. You can learn how to do everything now on TikTok, YouTube. I don't have TikTok. My daughter tells me all about it, but I know you can learn a bunch of stuff on it. She tells me if there's something you don't know, you can learn anything you want to know on YouTube. Learn a foreign language. This is a good time. If you are interested in a foreign language, it's a good time to learn one. Um, do some fun stuff. Me, when I'm going to learn something, I always want to see a way that I can turn it into money. So learn how to make candles and sell them. People love candles. I know I really like candles. Um, Learn how to cook. This is a perfect time to learn how to cook. This is a skill you're going to need all your life. And everybody loves a good cook. You can cook, people love you. They want to come to your house and eat. Learn how to bake. It's a great time to learn how to bake. We got a whole lot of extra time on our hands. Let's do that. Use your computer, become a blogger, journal about your life. You know, Talk about your knowledge, things you do know how to do. You just told me you were a really good swimmer. It'd be a great thing to talk about, have a blog about swimming or rugby. Brown girl rugby. Sound like a good blog to me. Okay. There are so many different talents that we all have, and you don't even know you have them. You just got to tap into it. If you like animals, foster an animal. You don't have to be an animal owner to be good to animals if that's what you like. Feed the strays. Don't feed the deer though. Just feed the dogs. Feed the cats. Leave the deer alone. Okay. Um, when I was young and I was your age, one of the things I learned how to do was calligraphy. I used to love calligraphy. It's a something that's like a lost art. It's something fun. You can do it by yourself. And it could be a skill. One day it could, pay off. I'm a writer. So I'm always going to tell you to read books and learn the art of storytelling. If you're good at telling stories, you know, make it fun for your listeners. Spellbound them by, using suspense and, thrill and fun. Tell a good story. People like that. Learn to write code. This is a perfect time to get even better with your computer skills. Now, I never could learn to write code. I couldn't even figure out how to set this computer up. But I'm older and I'm still learning things, but you guys are young. This is your life. One of the things that you're going to have to know is basically how to pivot, like Lady Aisha says, and move with whatever's in front of you. Unfortunately or fortunately, computers and technology is our future, and that's what's going to be. So if you can learn how to, code, that's a good thing to do. You can make some good apps, and you never know what app you might make. You could be the next, Steve Jobs or one of those people. You don't know. And lastly, challenge yourself to read a certain amount of books. And when you get done with this pandemic, you should be like, I read 50 books during my pandemic time. And lastly, use your pandemic time wisely. If you're going to be home for a year, what you going to show what you did with your year's worth of time? You don't want to be like, I watched those, what's those cat people? What was that show with the cats? Um, the was it the tigers and stuff? What was the name of
Something
it?
like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to be able to show us something constructive. I finished a book. I wrote a second book and got it published. I did a whole behavioral health guide. Like, I want to be able to say that I used my COVID time wisely, but I also am using this time to rejuvenate and to rest. So I think that there's a whole lot of things that we can be doing and that we should be doing, and that we don't know when this is going to end. So what we got to all be is flexible. And lastly, my last parting word for this is, let's be kind to one another. Treat each
Absolutely.
other nice. Understand that we're all frustrated. We're all doing the very best we can during this time. If you see a family member, a friend, an employee, fellow employee, a fellow schoolmate struggling, help them. Remember some of the things that I said today. Be a listening ear. So let's just treat each other good. And I don't know what else to say on that.
Thank you, Lady Judy. That was
Thank you.
some great answers.
Thank you. I enjoyed
Yes.
it so much. I so appreciate you ladies thinking of me. And it's a real honor to be able to be on the show.
Thank you so much, Lady Judy. And thank you to Teen Adrian for giving us the team perspective. So we'll talk to you later on Conversations Around the Crown.